Viewer discretion is advised.
After I heard Brynn had shot Phil and then heard Brynn had shot herself, I think everyone was in shock in the family and cannot imagine why she would do that.
May 28, 1998, 6:20 in the morning. A 911 call comes in from an upscale neighborhood in Encino, California. Inside a $1 million home, police find a 49-year-old man dead in his bed. 3 gunshot wounds. The weapon? His own wife's gun.
This is my lovely wife, Brynn.
Police were called to Hartman's Encino home today after reports of shots fired at 6 a.m.
But here's what makes this case different. For years, everyone missed the warning signs, the jealous rages, the physical violence, the threatening letters to other women, the times he had to physically restrain her, the nights he grabbed the kids and ran to friends' houses because it wasn't safe to stay home. Phil Hartman, the guy who made millions laugh on Saturday Night Live and The Simpsons, was living in a nightmare behind closed doors. And the person creating that nightmare was the woman who was supposed to love him.
Mr. Hartman had been dead for a while. He did not die at the same time that Mrs. Hartman apparently killed herself.
This isn't just another celebrity tragedy. This is a story about domestic violence against men that nobody wanted to talk about obsession and jealousy that went way beyond normal, about warning signs that everyone saw but nobody acted on until it was too late. By the time the sun came up that morning, 2 people were dead. 2 children were orphans. And Hollywood was left asking, how did we miss this? Look, if you're here for the full story, the real story, not just the headlines, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more people find this kind of content that actually treats these cases seriously. Let's start with her, because that's where this really begins. Her name was Vicki Jo Omdahl, born April 11, 1958 in Thief River Falls, Minnesota. Average family. Dad was an engineer, Mom ran a little shop, but Vicki didn't want average. She dropped out of high school. Married a telephone operator named Douglas Torfin in 1977, divorced him 2 years later. Then she did what thousands of people do. She moved to Los Angeles to become an actress, to be somebody. She changed her name. First to Bryndon, then to Brynn, like she was trying on identities, you know? Friends who knew her said she was always searching for herself, always changing, never quite satisfied. In the mid-'80s, Brynn worked as a swimsuit model for Catalina. She took acting classes, she went to auditions, she got plastic surgery, multiple surgeries actually, hoping it would help her career take off. But here's the thing, the roles never came. She landed tiny parts. A one-line bit in the movie North where she played a cocktail waitress, an appearance on Third Rock from the Sun as an alien from Venus. Literally 1 episode. That's it. While she was struggling to get even these crumbs, she was also battling something else. According to her brother Greg, Brynn had a serious cocaine problem when she first moved to LA. She did too much cocaine, he told ABC News years later. He convinced her to go to rehab. She went multiple times. For a while, she got clean, nearly a decade, some say. But that frustration, that feeling of watching everyone else succeed while she stayed stuck, that never went away. Now let's talk about the man she married. Philip Edward Hartman, he'd drop one in later, was born September 24, 1948 in Brantford, Ontario, Canada, 4th of 8 kids. His family moved to Southern California when he was young. Phil wasn't always a comedian. He was a graphic designer first, and a talented one. He designed album covers for Poco, America, Steely Dan, to Crosby, Stills, and Nash. In 1978, he actually won a Grammy for album cover art. But in 1975, Phil walked into the Groundlings, that famous LA improv theater. He volunteered from the audience for a sketch, and according to Tracy Newman, one of the founders, it was like a hurricane hit the stage. The good kind. Phil joined the Groundlings. He worked with Paul Rubens and helped create Pee Wee Herman. He played Captain Carl on Pee Wee's Playhouse, co-wrote Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Then came 1986, Saturday Night Live. For 8 seasons, Phil Hartman was everywhere on that show. Frank Sinatra, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton eating McDonald's, the unfrozen caveman lawyer. He could do over 70 impressions. His castmates called him the Glue. Supposedly, Jan Hooks gave him that nickname because he could hold any sketch together, even make anyone else funnier. He won an Emmy for writing in 1989, got nominated 3 more times. When he left SNL in 1994, it was to do bigger things.
Phil Hartman, ladies and gentlemen.
He joined News Radio as Bill McNeil. Critics loved it. Another Emmy nomination. And then there was The Simpsons. From 1991 until his death, Phil voiced Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz. 2 characters so iconic that when Phil died, creator Matt Groening retired both characters out of respect. Nobody else would ever voice them. Phil Hartman appeared to have it all. A $3 million estate, fame, respect from everyone in the industry. And in 1986, he went on a blind date with a woman named Brynn Hartman. They fell hard. Married November 25th, 1987. At first, it seemed perfect. Sean was born in 1988. Phil was over the moon. Friends said he lit up talking about his son. Then, in 1992, Bergen arrived. Phil called Lynn Stewart, his Pee Wee co-star, choked up, saying, "She's the most beautiful baby in the world." But underneath the family photos, something else was happening. Brynn's career wasn't taking off, at all. And Phil was becoming a household name. People who knew the couple said Brynn felt overshadowed, frustrated, jealous. And then the behavior started. Shortly after they married, Phil's ex-wife, Lisa Strain, who he'd divorced in 1985 but stayed friends with, sent a card congratulating them on Sean's birth. You know, a nice gesture. "Much love, Aunt Lisa. Let me know if you need a babysitter." Brynn's response? A letter. 2 pages, front and back, threatening to rip Lisa's eyes out if she ever contacted Phil again. Lisa was shocked. She called Phil. You know what he said? "You should have seen the letter she wanted to send." He brushed it off. Called Brynn intense. Was she really this obsessed? Like, rip your eyes out over a baby congratulations card? I mean, that's next-level petty, but it didn't stop there. Brynn also became fixated on Jan Hooks, Phil's SNL co-star and close friend. They worked together constantly on the show. They had this amazing chemistry. Brynn even joked that Phil and Jan were married on some other level. Except she wasn't really joking. After Brynn's death, police found letters she'd written to Jan Hooks. Threatening letters, warning her to stay away from Phil. She never sent them, but she wrote them. Multiple times. Can you even imagine? Sitting at home writing threatening letters to your husband's co-workers? Friends also said Brynn was verbally and physically abusive. Steve Small, Phil's lawyer and close friend, told the LA Times that Brynn had trouble controlling her anger. She got attention by losing her temper. Phil sometimes had to physically restrain her during fights. Phil's ex-wife, Lisa Strain, said Phil had this passive personality. He'd withdraw emotionally, disappear into his own world. "That passivity made you crazy," she said. But with Brynn, that passivity became a survival tactic. Phil's friend said Phil would describe it like this: "I go into my cave, and she throws grenades to get me out." When fights escalated late into the night, Phil would just go to sleep, hoping she'd cool off by morning. She wanted fame so bad, but it just never came. Was she expecting an award just for showing up to auditions? Meanwhile, watching Phil kill it on SNL and Simpsons while she got bit parts? Oh man, that resentment had to burn. And then there was the substance abuse. This is a good moment to pause and ask you something. If you've ever wondered what warning signs look like in abusive relationships, especially when the victim is a man, drop a comment. What do you think people should watch for? Because this stuff matters.
Phil, how are you?
Never better, Dave. How are you?
Phil, you look a little different. You have something, you have like a little magic marker or something there on your upper lip.
It's a drawn-on mustache, Dave.
Not everybody can pull that off, but on you it looks great, Phil.
It's kind of a retro look.
You want a light for your cigarette?
I know I'm a non-smoker, Dave.
For nearly a decade, Brynn stayed sober. She and Phil went to couples therapy. Her brother Greg said they both felt it helped. But by the late 1990s, Brynn relapsed. She started drinking again, using cocaine again. She was also taking Zoloft, an antidepressant prescribed by her psychiatrist. County coroner's investigator Craig Harvey later said the cocaine and alcohol definitely intensified each other's effects. The Zoloft, he said, was kind of a wild card. Friends noticed things getting worse. The Hartmans' housekeeper quit in mid-May 1998, just walked out. Phil confided in his news radio co-star Joe Rogan. Rogan later said he encouraged Phil to divorce Brynn 5 times. 5 times. But Phil always said the same thing. I love my kids and I don't want to leave them. Because here's the thing nobody talks about enough. Phil was trapped. He'd seen what Brynn was capable of when she was angry. He'd physically restrained her during rages. He'd grabbed Sean and Bergen and taken them to friends' houses during her drug-fueled outbursts. On multiple occasions, he had to evacuate his own children from his own home because it wasn't safe. Think about that. A grown man, a successful comedian, having to flee his house with his kids because his wife is out of control. And this is where domestic violence against men gets so complicated. Phil was bigger, stronger. But what was he supposed to do? Hit her back? Leave and lose custody because courts favor mothers? Call the police and risk his career, his reputation, everything? He tried to handle it quietly. He gave her ultimatums. He threatened to leave if she didn't stop using drugs. There was an incident where Brynn hit their daughter Bergen while intoxicated. Phil told her flat out, "If you use drugs again, if you cause further harm to our children, I will leave." But he never followed through. Joe Rogan later said about Brynn, "She definitely had coke problems. She was a weirdo. She was a loser. That's what she was. She was married to a winner. She was an actress and she was a failure and he was an actor and he was a big success and you know how that can be." Harsh words, but from someone who watched his friend suffer. May 27, 1998. That evening, Brynn went to dinner with her friend Christine Zander at an Italian restaurant called Buca di Beppo in Encino. Zander later told People magazine that Brynn seemed to be in a good frame of mind. They had drinks, 2 cosmopolitans. Brynn got home sometime after midnight. What happened next, we know from police reports and witness accounts. Brynn and Phil got into an argument, a heated one, about her drug use, about the fact that she'd hit their daughter, about his threat to leave. Phil, exhausted, did what he always did. He went to bed. It was around 3 a.m. when Brynn walked into their bedroom. She'd been drinking. She'd snorted cocaine. She had Zoloft in her system, and she was carrying a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver. Phil was asleep. She shot him 3 times, once between the eyes, once in the throat, once in the chest. He died instantly. He was 49 years old. Then Brynn left the house. She drove to her friend Ron Douglas's place and told him, "I killed Phil." Ron didn't believe her. Brynn had a history of dramatic outbursts, but when she showed him the gun, he took it from her and put it in a plastic bag. They drove back to the Hartman house in separate cars. On the way, Brynn called another friend and confessed a second time. When Ron walked into the bedroom, he saw Phil's body. He immediately called 911. It was 6:20 a.m. Police arrived. They escorted Ron and the 2 children out of the house. A 9-year-old Sean and 6-year-old Bergen had been asleep during the shooting. The LA Times reported that Sean was actually fleeing out the front door when officers arrived. As police tried to get Bergen out safely, they heard a single gunshot from inside the locked bedroom.
At 6:20 this morning, residents of this upscale Encino neighborhood called police to report gunshots coming from the Hartman's gated estate. Officers arrived to find a 9-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl by the front door, both obviously upset. As they were taking the children out of the house, officers heard a gunshot in the master bedroom. There they discovered comedian Phil Hartman dead. Authorities say it appears his wife Brynn shot him, then turned the gun on herself.
Brynn had shot herself in the head with a second revolver. She died instantly. If you think this kind of storytelling, Factual, respectful, focused on understanding the full picture, including domestic violence against men, is important. Hit that subscribe button. We need more conversations that don't shy away from the hard truths.
Hartman made his living making people laugh. He got his first big break on Saturday Night Live. For 8 years, he took on characters like President Clinton.
And the fact is that one person and one person only bears the full responsibility for this affair. My wife, Hillary Rodham.
The entertainment world was devastated. Saturday Night Live dedicated an episode to Phil on May 30th, 1998, just 2 days after his death. His castmates remembered the glue, the man who held the show together. News Radio had been renewed for a 5th season. The writers had to write Phil's character out. They had him die of a heart attack off camera. Jon Lovitz joined the cast to try to fill the void, but the show was never the same, canceled at the end of that season. The Simpsons retired Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz. Matt Groening said no one else would ever voice those characters, and to this day, they haven't. In 1999, Brynn's brother Gregory Amdahl filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Pfizer, the maker of Zoloft, and against Brynn's psychiatrist. The lawsuit claimed side effects from Zoloft contributed to Brynn's actions. Pfizer settled for $100,000 without admitting wrongdoing. There was also drama involving Phil's News Radio co-star Andy Dick. Jon Lovitz accused Dick of giving Brynn cocaine at a Christmas party in 1997, which Lovitz believed caused her relapse. Dick denied knowing about her addiction. In 2006, Dick allegedly approached Lovitz at a restaurant and said, "I put the Phil Hartman hex on you. You're the next one to die." Lovitz had him ejected from the restaurant. The following year at the Laugh Factory, Lovitz slammed Dick's head into a bar. But the most important question was about Sean and Bergen. Custody went to Brynn's sister, Catherine Wright, and her husband, Mike. Some of Phil's family initially opposed this. How could the children be raised by the sister of the woman who murdered their father? But Phil's brother, John, convinced the family it was the right thing. "These people did not kill Phil," he said. "They're good people." The Wrights raised Sean and Bergen in Wisconsin and Minnesota, away from the media spotlight, as under a different last name. Phil's will was carefully written. Each child would inherit 1/3 of the estate, worth about $3 million, when they turned 25, but only if they got a bachelor's degree. They'd get half the remaining balance at 30 and the rest at 35. Phil wanted his kids to earn their future. By all accounts, Sean and Bergen grew up surrounded by love. Today, Sean Edward Hartman is 37. He lives in Oakland, California, works as a visual artist and musician. He designed the poster for a short film, played in bands during high school. He keeps a low profile, rarely on social media. Bergen Annika Hartman is 33. She graduated from the University of St. Thomas with degrees in journalism and communication. In 2018, she married Brandon Dragos in a ceremony in Italy. Bergen is more public. She works as a consent educator and has testified before the Minnesota House of Representatives supporting anti-bullying legislation. In 2015, she attended the Saturday Night Live 40th anniversary celebration to honor her father. She's also been open about her own struggles. She battled substance abuse but got sober in February 2012. As of 2021, she celebrated 9 years of sobriety. On what would have been Phil's 74th birthday in 2022, Bergen posted on social media, "My dad's 74th birthday today. Thanks for the personality disorder." Even in grief, she found a way to honor him with humor, just like he would have wanted. On the 19th anniversary of her parents' deaths in 2017, Bergen wrote on Instagram, "It truly means the world to me. And my parents would be so happy to know that such a supportive community still exists for us after all these years." Both children have become exactly what Phil hoped they would be: strong, independent, successful on their own terms. If this story affected you, drop a comment about why Phil Hartman's work still matters to you. Which character? Which sketch? Let's keep his legacy alive in the comments. So what do we take from this? This wasn't just a celebrity tragedy. This was domestic violence against a man. And for years, people saw the warning signs and didn't act. Phil's friends knew Brynn was volatile. They knew she was physically abusive. They knew about the threatening letters, the jealous rages, the times Phil had to grab the kids and leave the house. Joe Rogan told him to leave 5 times. 5 times. But Phil stayed. Yet because he loved his kids. Because he was trapped in a situation with no good options. Because society still doesn't know how to talk about men who are victims of domestic abuse. The Los Angeles Police Department ruled it domestic discord. That phrase makes it sound simple. But nothing about this was simple. This was a marriage between 2 people with unmet needs and unresolved pain. Add addiction, mental health struggles, prescription medication mixed with drugs and alcohol, and jealousy that became obsession. Was this inevitable? No. There were moments when things could have gone differently. If Phil had followed through on his threats to leave, if Brynn had stayed in recovery, if someone had intervened harder. But here's the reality. Abusive relationships escalate slowly. The victim keeps hoping things will get better. Friends don't want to interfere. Society doesn't take male victims seriously. And by the time everyone realizes how bad it's gotten, it's often too late. Phil Hartman's legacy lives on in the laughter he gave us. Troy McClure, Lionel Hutz, Bill McNeil, the unfrozen caveman lawyer, all those SNL sketches that made the 90s so memorable. But his most important legacy is Sean and Bergen, 2 people who survived unimaginable trauma and grew into adults who honor their father while forging their own paths. In 2012, Phil was posthumously inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame. In 2014, he got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He is remembered. He is missed. And maybe, just maybe, his story can help us recognize the warning signs of domestic violence, whoever the victim is, before another family is destroyed. If this story moved you, share this video. Not because it's entertainment, but because understanding cases like this, the warning signs, the complexity, the fact that men can be victims too, might help someone recognize what's happening in their own life or the life of someone they love. Thanks for watching.